Hello, everyone. Thank you for waiting patiently as we begin the webinar for today. I'm Amelia Niger, the Education Specialist with the Oracle Application and Technology Users Group. I'm very excited to welcome you all to today's session, Make Your Warehouse More Efficient with Powerful Mobile Solutions. Before we dive in and get started, I'd like to briefly introduce everyone to OA2UG in case you're new to our programming. We're a community of Oracle users, and we provide education, networking, and support to our members. Be sure to save the date for our Ascend conference this year. It will be at the Aria in Vegas from June 12th to 15th. I'll be sure to post a link for that in the chat shortly. Just a quick reminder for today's webinar, you will be on mute throughout the session. However, you are welcome to send questions at any time through the question box in your control panel, which we will address at the end. You will also receive a brief survey at the conclusion of this webinar. Your response will help us shape the future of our education. If you are interested in earning CPE credit, your survey response will be required. You will also need to be logged into the session for at least 50 minutes and post at least one question. We are recording this session, and the recording as well as the slide deck will be available to OA2UG members in the knowledge base. You'll see the link for that in the chat area. And now I'd like to turn it over to today's speakers. We have two. First, Jack Pite with Intellinum, who is the Partnership and Sales Manager. We also have Erica Medina from NexInfo Solutions, Inc., and she is the Associate Marketing Analyst. I'm actually going to turn it over to her. So Erica, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Amelia. We are very excited to be presenting with Intellinum today. They are one of our partners with who we have worked on projects with several of our partnerships as well. And I would like to go ahead and begin by introducing myself. My name is Erica Medina, and I am a business and marketing analyst with experience in managing and improving quality of project deliverables and solutions. I have experience in handling cloud and development projects. I'm also a training and education specialist for both internal and client projects. I also coordinate webinars in our attendance of Oracle User Group conferences. Next, I'd like to introduce our company, NexInfo. Thank you, Jack. NexInfo is a consulting company for both small and large companies across a diverse range of industries. We are a global company with the ability to provide services across the US and Europe. NexInfo opened up for business in 1999, and we have been an industry leader for 23 years with a wealth of knowledge and experience in software consulting services. For example, business process design, software implementations, SaaS solution and business analytics. Our domain expertise is across all Oracle products, and we are a certified Oracle partner and have partnerships with several other organizations. NexInfo has been recognized by many firms and most recently featured in Yahoo Finance. And we are delighted to be presenting with Intellinum today. And I would like to go ahead and give Jack the floor to both introduce himself and the company.
Great, thank you so much, Erica. And hi, everyone. I'm so excited to present for all of you today. I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about myself and Intellinum. We'll kick off the presentation. So I'm a sales and partnership manager with Intellinum. I'm responsible for our business in North America and the EMEA region. So a little bit about me. I've worked in the industry for several years. I started my career with Oracle, working with some of our key accounts in Texas, specifically in the database and supply chain software products. I led sales efforts for Oracle and Intellinum and worked with both the business and IT leaders in a variety of different verticals. So experience and what I've worked with has been across the Fusion suite. Worked with the Fusion supply chain management, supply chain execution software, so manufacturing, inventory, maintenance cloud, the Oracle warehouse management cloud, the variety of Oracle database products, and the Oracle cloud infrastructure offerings as well. I've guided several transformative supply chain projects for very complex enterprise buyers, manufacturing, life science, and energy verticals. And working with so many different stakeholders, partners, and lines of business has given me a pretty unique perspective into the industry and some of the challenges that we face today. So I'm excited to bring that perspective to the presentation and talk about how bringing a mobile aspect to this can help with supply chain operations as well. So a little bit about Intellinum and who we are. Intellinom is a privately owned company that was formed 16 years ago by Oracle experts that saw a huge opportunity to create a modern solution for supply chain execution to complement the Oracle suite. We began with implementation services and products in the EBS space that complemented the mobile supply chain application, MSCA. As the market shifted and the use of cloud technology became more important, more pivotal to a lot of different strategies, we also changed our strategy to reflect that market's transition. So since the very beginning of our inception, we've been focused on delivering supply chain execution software and both implementing and providing solutions that complement the core ERP offerings that folks use. We have offices around the globe. Our corporate headquarters is based in Dallas, Texas. This is also where we have our first line of support. So for our solutions and for our implementation services, we provide 24/7 support. We have a portal on our website where people can ask questions, report incidents. And we also have a call service where people can speak to a live person 24/7. As I mentioned, what we do, we create and provide pre-integrated mobile scanning solutions for a variety of Oracle products. Our organization has really strong relationships with the Oracle strategy and development teams that lead supply chain and warehousing efforts at Oracle. So we're constantly in communication with these leaders to ensure that we know what's coming down the pipeline and can adjust our offerings accordingly, making sure that our customers and folks that want to leverage a mobile solution get the best kind of product and are able to adapt to the future changes. We're one of the fastest growing vendors in the mobile market, really due in part to how our solution is built and the ease of use of our product. It's certified on the Oracle Marketplace, and we're a strong Oracle partner in the Oracle Partner Program. We're really unique as well in how we work with our customers at delivery. We have a couple different implementation models, but we can also do the full implementation suite from requirement gathering, testing, training, all the way up to go live. So really encompass a lot of different aspects of the mobile space for supply chain. So what we'll be talking about today is really structured into 8 different parts. So I'll start with the brief background and overview of the challenges that we see facing a lot of supply chain leaders today, the role of customization and barcoding, how mobility is integrated with the Oracle suite, some common use cases we see across all verticals, and then we'll get more specific and talk about some in 3 different verticals use cases that are being used right now by actual Intellinom customers. And we've had some difficulty in queuing this up, but we have a pre-recorded demo, about 10 minutes of walking through what the actual tool looks like. If we have some time, we'll try and make that work, but if not, I'll make it available for download after this call so people can view that on their own time. And then lastly, we'll follow up with a brief Q&A. We'll field your questions and have some conversation about what we talked about. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick it off and start about why we're here today. And at a very high level, I'll kind of start with the challenges, maybe a state of the industry, and then we'll funnel down into talking about mobile. So from 2010 to 19, we had a relatively stable and a defined supply chain globally. Our organizations and people could count on an easy flow of goods and services, reliably estimate inventory and lead times. There were controls in place. By no means was the supply chain perfect, but the management efforts and the optimization that leaders had and the steps they take in the 2000s, the early 2010s, were helping to keep supply chains efficient enough where there wasn't a large bottleneck that drastically affected business on a day-to-day. There's still many areas that could be improved, and leaders were starting to learn how mobile solutions could be leveraged and how some of the common pain points in the supply chain and warehouse space could be addressed by these mobile features. But there were still some growing pains when these first kicked off. So on the mobile front, we see the same common pain points time and time again. The areas that mobile most often addresses is really at the point of contact with physical goods. So where the transactions actually being captured. It can be difficult to get a real-time look into your operation when there's no mobile device available. Not having a tool to capture and reflect that data can skew confidence in decisions. So the data in your core ERP is only as good as the quality of data that's been entered. If entered incorrectly, assumptions are made incorrectly. So having a solution that can capture that data, can capture it accurately, is very important and kind of the number one factor to consider when adopting that mobile piece. Additionally, any business solution can be difficult to bring into an operation, but especially in supply chain and warehousing. The fluctuation of labor in the warehouse, whether this is from a seasonal impact, market conditions, it means that the business needs a solution that is easy to use and that folks can quickly pick up and learn. Having a tool that works but isn't easy to use doesn't really address the core problem of having that usability. It needs to be intuitive in the user's hands. Traditional pen and paper or using Excel are also tools that folks have used to record transactions, but these can be time consuming for people on the floor. Ideally, you'd like to mitigate time spent on non-revenue driving activities like data entry or cleansing data and allocate that more towards the actual warehouse processes, picking, packing, receiving, all of the things that you're going to be doing within the four walls. Creating a homegrown solution that works with your core ERP is also a route that some folks have taken, but can be costly. The development time, testing, all of the effort that goes into creating software can be challenging. And in addition, folks need to consider the cost of hardware. That's also part of that offering. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, supply chain is inherently going to have a multi-location component that requires movement from A to B to C. So having a mechanism that's you're able to bring with you and that is transportable would be the best way to follow that kind of flow. So we talked about where we were, some of the mobile pain points, but I want to just take a moment, and the reality of where we are today is that the disruption of the supply chain from a variety of different factors, both COVID-19, some of the changes in consumer habits, geopolitical tensions, is becoming more and more severe, and unfortunately becoming increasingly apparent that this is maybe the new way of operating. Unpredictable lead times, shortages, uneven inventory controls, these are factors that should be considered when working in and leading a supply chain today. So one of the ways that organizations in the past worked towards the better supply chain, what we are doing today, is bringing the mobility back into the supply chain, how we can address some of those pain points when assessing a solution. So it really starts with the core ERP, and today we'll be focusing on one of the more popular supply chain and warehouse management systems available, the Oracle Supply Chain Management and Warehouse Management Cloud applications. Both of these solutions offer robust inventory, manufacturing, and maintenance and warehouse capabilities that thousands of enterprises use today. The backend capabilities give businesses numerous advantages, but incorporating additional speed and accuracy of data into these systems let leaders make decisions even faster. So with the dynamic nature that we see in supply chain today, it's required across all verticals. This quickness is more critical than ever. So the mobile piece of the equation that we'll want to discuss is the application that Intelligent employs called FlexiLogic Pro. It fits and extends Oracle SCM and WMS. And so this is a barcode-enabled application that runs on a mobile device like a rugged scanner, a mobile phone, or a laptop that allows users to perform Oracle Cloud SCM and WMS transactions in real time. So people can utilize a number of native pre-built transactions out of the box to support their processes. So every user's process is going to be different. Customizing these kinds of transactions is important. The mobile solution should have a robust framework to easily modify screens, transactions to best support the requirements that the business might have at any given time. The ability to adapt is important because the flow in a warehouse and the flow of supply chain is very dynamic. It can be impacted by elements outside of a business's control. So having that quickness to change direction, change what someone's going to see on the screen lets you adapt to that kind of change and that kind of outside force. So from an SCM perspective, mobile solutions should extend and mobilize the Oracle Cloud SCM. And so some of the apps or modules that we want to consider to integrate with are the Oracle Inventory, Manufacturing, Maintenance, and the Financial Fixed Assets Cloud. So these are the core modules that make up the bulk of supply chain activities within Oracle. These are the apps that we should be aiming to mobilize, barcode enable, and make easy for users to perform transactions on a mobile screen. On the another side of the coin is from the WMS perspective. Users should have the robust nature of WMS Cloud coupled with that mobile piece that's integrated into WMS. So by having both of this, kind of the engine in the back and this nice screen in the front, one would gain a much more modern user interface with all of the additional logic that WMS has, essentially turning Cloud WMS into a 2022 modern application that mobile users are very comfortable using, letting them optimize their work and efficiency. And in a perfect world, the solution should let users work with warehouses that require the sophistication found in Cloud WMS, but also in smaller warehouses that might be better served by inventory cloud or manufacturing cloud. Customers should be able to work in both warehouses at the same time with the same app. This way they can use one solution across their entire business. So I'll start a little bit and focus on Cloud SCM here and dive a little bit deeper into what's important and what should be considered in the mobile space. As I mentioned, it's important that the transactions that are being used are pre-built and validated real-time back into Oracle. A mobile device should ultimately use the same SSO and authorization models that's being used in the ERP and be close to the same architecture that's being used by the same Fusion application to make it easy for both IT and business users to use and troubleshoot. In FlexiLogic specifically, the Oracle Fusion SSO, the authorization models and privileges are actually supported and are very important to the security of our own system. So by default, we carry those over onto the mobile screen. As Fusion Cloud follows that SaaS architecture, the mobile application should also complement this approach. So Flexi and some of the other mobile solutions out there are built on the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. And so this is the same backbone that hosts the entire Fusion suite. So having the same infrastructure that we host our application on lets us cut down on latency, and we can pick and choose what data centers and what VM we actually want to deploy the application on. So this is a big value add for that kind of speed and quickness of transactions. We also offer a personalization framework to give users a lot of flexibility in changing screens to fit their requirements. So adding new screens, personalizing transactions is very important to customers to have that kind of unique business requirement supported. And then also out of the box, oftentimes we find customers have the need to support an e-signature or photo attachment. So a common use case here is when someone receives inventory, they want to take a picture of the pallet of the package and reflect that back into the Oracle SCM. So this can be done and captured is something called a DFF back into Oracle Cloud, just another field that's recorded into the ledger. And you can see the file that's been captured from the mobile screen on the transaction in inventory or in one of the modules that you're using that transaction for. Another common use case is if someone's performing an account, there's a damaged package found during that count, a user can capture evidence of that package and good and save it back into the SCM module. Also, as we know, warehouses can have spotty Wi-Fi connectivity. A mobile solution should be able to work offline or have a workaround for dropped internet. So within Flexi, what we've done is create a quick reconnect feature to have a user pick up the transaction where they might have left off if Wi-Fi was dropped. So this takes them to the last screen they were on and resumes the transaction mid-flow. Another workaround for that kind of lack of Wi-Fi connectivity is storing and forwarding transactions. So going to, for example, a location that you know might not have Wi-Fi connectivity, maybe a yard or just a dead spot within the warehouse. What you can do is enable a mode that stores data on the device while transactions are being performed, and then it's reconnected to Wi-Fi connectivity, push that data back out to the Oracle Cloud SCM, effectively working around that disconnect for a short period of time. So I'll pivot over to Cloud WMS now and talk a little bit about what's important for a mobile solution in that space. So just as SCM, the WMS solution should have the ability to add validations as needed to support those business requirements. Cloud WMS is a very powerful tool that can be configured in a lot of different ways. And a question that comes up is, in the case of when a new menu or a new screen is added in WMS, how does that affect the mobile solution? Do you have to recreate that work or that screen? Luckily, in a solution, you should not have to duplicate those efforts. There should be an auto connect feature to Cloud WMS that supports showing the new menus and screens immediately when that user signs out or signs back in. Solutions should also incorporate all of the WMS transactions and support the barcode capability to record those transactions. That way, the power of WMS is pulled to the front and the user can actually use a mobile screen to perform those transactions. The way that I like to think of it is having a car with a very powerful engine, but also a very strong chassis that supports that engine. Many of the points that I mentioned as well with Flexi and Cloud SCM also apply to WMS. So using the Oracle Cloud authentication models, the same kind of infrastructure on OCI, having that personalization ability, these are all factors to be considered and brought to WMS, just the same as SCM. So I'll pivot and talk a little bit about the personalization and how that fits into the mobile solution. As no two businesses are going to have the same requirements, and as the supply chain is very dynamic, a mobile solution and the system should be as well. So no one should have to rely on another organization to make changes to their tools. Ideally, users should have the freedom to tweak screens, menus, and the flow on their own terms and on their own timeline. In Flexi, this is the framework that we deployed. Users have access to an intuitive yes/no list that lets them actually reorder screens without relying or paying another developer to make those changes. It's really kind of handing the keys over to the user to adapt as needed. Most importantly, users that don't have an IT background can make those changes because of the simple intuition required to make and manipulate the menu and the screens within the framework. That said, if there is a need to add advanced logic into a process, so if you want to call a web service or validate data, a framework should let someone that does have that expertise enter and create their own code to accommodate those kind of needs. And in the third point, since we are talking about scanning and barcoding, it should come as no surprise that the software should also have a powerful and configurable barcode engine. So Flexi can support hundreds of symbologies, 2D barcodes, QR codes, and more. And customers find a lot of value in the ability to capture multiple data points in a single scan. So a user might scan the barcode on a PO, and just with one scan, have info like the PO number, quantity, unit of measure, line number. These should all be fetched within one scan. And so it's a time saver for the user recording the transaction and lets them perform multiple transactions at a quicker rate than if they're doing multiple scans. Doesn't have to have someone worried that they might have missed a barcode when recording the transaction either. Customers should also be able to hide screens they don't need, eliminate touch points on the device, really make it easier for the end user to navigate the screens and make it familiar to them. This way it's quicker to pick up, quicker time to value for the user. And lastly, you should be able to tier the levels of organization and the personalized screens that you have, and ideally have this based on the Oracle user role or even the site that you're performing this transaction at. For example, one user with specific Oracle credentials might be able to access only the receiving screens, while another user has the credentials to access both receiving and the ability to do transfers. So having that kind of variability and that level of customization is just another control to make sure that there aren't going to be incorrect transactions performed, helping to make data cleaner when entered into the ERP. So I'm going to transition and talk about some of the common use cases we see most often in working with customers looking to leverage a mobile solution. So we do have several vertical specific examples from real Intel and Oracle customers, but I first wanted to share a slide about what we see most often across the board. So these are use cases that are common in every vertical and really boil down to a few key areas. The first is the ability to make very specific business requirements, like, for example, creating a specific lot based on a scan, capturing specific manufacturing hours worked. These very specific and niche business requirements need to be able to be configured within the tool. The next is getting a hold of complex operations. So this might be managing multiple warehouses that are using a mix of different Oracle modules at the same time. The third is easing outbound and inbound flows. And lastly, solving for challenging barcode and labeling requirements. So in some cases, we've seen customers have inventory merchandise that you can't really affix a label to, or there's challenges with different barcode symbologies because of incumbent solutions. So these are some of the use cases we see often, and some of the ways and solutions that we've accommodated those needs. So we've got 3 different examples to share today of customers of both Oracle and Intel. And I'm going to talk through what they've done in the mobile space and the specific kind of use cases they had and how they were addressed by that mobile aspect. So I'll start with Secura Fintech, who's a customer in the life sciences vertical. So Secura is a company based out of California. They produce high quality reproducible slides, digital images, and different kinds of blocks for labs, specifically in the histopathology space. So Secura is a particularly interesting use case for both Intellinum and for as an Oracle customer. So they were an on-premise EBS customer that migrated over to the cloud, and they wanted to continue using a mobile solution similar to MSCA in the cloud. So Secura was in an industry where lot-controlled inventory was really crucial to their success. And keeping track of lot expiration dates and arrivals is necessary to ensure that they were staying compliant with their device regulations. They realized that the best efficiencies were recognized by using barcode scanning to make sure that they were picking the correct item, but also picking the correct lot, which was designated on the sales order. So this lets Secura send the correct products to the customer the first time, avoiding any costs associated with returns, ultimately leading to happier customers getting the right product the first time. In the life sciences industry, it's very common that companies are dealing with really regulated items where they have to track lot and or serial numbers. So when that's the case, customers rely really heavily on their supply chain and Oracle Cloud to help them manage and track that kind of data. In that vein, another use case that Secura leveraged Flexi for was the ability to create a unique internal lot number upon receipt of the products coming in. So the use case for this is that for a certain product type, Secura needed the ability to trace the product back to the supplier to monitor for any kind of recalls that product might have had. So Flexi lets Secura increase that efficiency, add that kind of validation, and actually trace that product from A to B to C, from supplier to the logistics 3PL they were using, all the way into the warehouse that they had stored that kind of supply in. So that kind of efficiency was recognized by Secura. Really easy, and added some validation to make sure they were shipping that right product the first time. The next use case I wanted to touch on was with a customer called National Convenience Distributors, or NCD. So NCD used Flexi with the Cloud WMS. They're a company based out of Farmingdale, New York, and parent entity of 3 different operating divisions. They're one of the biggest distributors of convenience store merchandise in the world, revenues of $2.5 billion, over 1,000 employees. So as you can imagine, NCD had a very large operation with many different warehouses and locations where they store merchandise that they needed to coordinate and track. So they're currently using Flexi in conjunction with WMS, and the biggest driver behind their choice was the flexibility for customization, having a fast user adoption, and the ability to support a pretty demanding printing requirement. So before adding Flexi, many of the processes that NCD used were manual. There weren't any screens to see loading lists for trucks or for coolers, no screens for pick lists while picking orders, and no way to follow the item, the list of items required for certain custom tasks like picking. So with Flexi, NCD got a variety of screens that let them display the pick lists for loading, for inventory transfer, while adding a task drop-down field for new screens. So as you can imagine, a user would have the task list on their screen. As they walk through their pick list, they would be able to close off every new task with each pick and keep track of their requirements on the mobile device during each shift. Another benefit that NCD recognized was the really quick adoption by the warehouse users. So 5 different teams in several different locations used Flexi and NCD and relied on the power that WMS offered behind the screens to actually accommodate their project. So as a result of that friendly and familiar user interface, within 1.5 weeks, 95% of the business users were able to pick up Flexi and start using it once it went live. So that kind of accelerated user adoption was possible because of the familiar feel that the mobile screen presented the user. Lastly, NCD had several pretty complex labeling and printing requirements that they were trying to solve. One was for a requirement for cubed picking sequences. So this kind of picking requirement was to be printed on labels, but that was missing in their current process. So NCD added specific LPN-specific labels and labels based on cubed picking sequences that were sourced from the RF. So stores could make these pre-made labels in a library, reprint them, and then affix them to the merchandise that they were shipping. Flexi was able to recognize those kinds of specific LPN-based labels and automatically record those transactions on the first scan back into WMS. The last example and the use case we'll talk about is with a customer in the energy industry. So I'll focus on the customer Enphase here. Enphase is a manufacturer and distributor of a lot of different products for homes and businesses. Their solutions are really in the solar space. They specifically place small kinds of microconverter solar panels underneath someone's roof, which lets that specific home maximize the power production from the solar cell. So this is their core offering. They have really a lot of really cool tech that they do work with, but that's the core offering that they've been focusing their efforts on. So Enphase is a WMS customer who had a need to optimize their outbound and inbound processes by speeding up palletization and receiving flows. So what does that really mean to Enphase and to the business? Well, the first goal was to palletize the LPNs by providing an order number as the input method, and then palletizing the LPNs that were a part of that order based on the user confirmation. And Enphase wanted to do this without having to scan each LPN one by one. So this was a huge time saver for Enphase at the dock as they were receiving inventory. The other major benefit was the process during the receipt of the LPNs and the serial numbers within those LPNs. So the use case here is that Enphase often received inbound shipments where users have to scan hundreds, even up to 1,000 serial numbers as part of their LPN receipt process. So you can imagine a user sitting at a dock, scanning to validate that a few hundred serial numbers were actually a part of that order. You know, it's a very time-consuming process for that user, but it was necessary in order to bring those serial numbers back into Cloud WMS. So with Flexi, what Enphase did is accelerate that process. We created an algorithm that recognized the order of the serial number based on data called from WMS. And with just a few serial number scans, the system would validate the rest of the order, the rest of the numbers back into WMS with just 3 or 4 scans versus that 100 or 1,000 scans. As you can imagine, someone that's using that solution at dock, a big time saver, and also can ensure that the data being entered back into WMS is accurate because of that validation. So those are just a couple of the use cases that we had prepared today. We did have a short demo prepared, but we had some technical challenges getting that pulled up. What we'll do is at the end of this webinar, we'll make that recording available to everyone on the call. It's about a 10-minute video that walks through how the Flexi application works and performs a couple transactions and shows those back real time in the Oracle Cloud and how they're recorded. So we'll make sure that you guys all get a copy of that at the end of the webinar. So with that, Erica, I'll hand it over to you just to kind of run through a quick summary of what we walked through today.
Of course. Thank you so much, Jack. In today's session, we covered customers' pain points and challenges that were addressed in SCM. We saw the role of mobility SCM and how Oracle Cloud SCM and WMS transactions perform from a mobile device. We learned about the customization and barcoding. We saw some exciting use cases and learned such as Sakura, who used barcode scanning to modernize and manage lot control. We were meant to see the demo, but remember, it'll be available after the webinar, so you can get a real, look and feel of the Flexi Pro. And we also have a special offer for all of the people that are attending. We are offering a complimentary assessment from the NexInfo side. We do have our contact info. You can contact either Melody or Doug to schedule your complimentary assessment, and it is available until May 31st, and you must have attended the webinar in order to get the promotion. And Jack, I'll pass it over to you. I think you guys also were gonna do an offer.
Yeah, so for everyone that was on the call today, we'd like to extend a invitation to check out a demo of FlexiLogic Pro specific to use cases that you might have in a project or within your organization today. So we typically block off 45 minutes, and we'll connect with you beforehand to make sure that we're covering all those use cases. And we want to make sure that it's really an interactive session. So for everyone on this call, please let me know if you're interested in that kind of that offering. We can go ahead and set some time up to have that.
All right, thank you so much, Jack and Erica. Much appreciated and great presentation. We do have some questions in the chat. Are we ready for those?
Yeah, before we head over to the questions, I just wanted to invite everybody to visit our booth at Ascend, and also to join our sessions that will be given by our own Hemel Park. And we look forward to meeting everybody in person. We're ready for the questions. Thank you, Amelia.
All right, thank you, and excited to see y'all there. It's going to be awesome.
It will.
All right, so we've got a few questions here that I'm going to post into the chat and read them out loud. Question 1, does the implementation include barcoding the inventory items too?
Yeah, that's a great question. So maybe to understand a little bit more, when by barcoding, does this mean like label creation and generation? So actually creating those barcodes for you to affix to that inventory.
He said that is correct.
Okay, yep, so we do offer that barcoding creation generation as well. A complementary offering called Express Label is actually our enterprise labeling solution. It's what you see is what you get, drag and drop label designer that just runs on a browser. So it lets you create different kinds of labels with that barcode symbology. It can be pointed to the different printers you have within the warehouse. Flexi is, of course, integrated with Express Label, so you can read those labels and that barcode symbology on the scan.
All right, thank you. We've got another question. What all use cases are covered for Oracle SCM? And the second part to that, is there a white paper to refer to?
Yeah, great question. So Oracle SCM has a variety of different modules that address use cases that you might find in inventory, maintenance, manufacturing. So work orders in maintenance and manufacturing, and then in inventory, you have all of the different receiving, pick, pack, ship, essentially those kinds of inventory activities you perform. So I would definitely recommend checking out the Oracle website for supply chain execution. You're going to find a lot of good information about those kind of modules just on that website. And there's white papers, PDFs that you can download that talk about those transactions and use cases.
Got another question, number 3. Does this, in parentheses, they have storing data on local device in absence of network and reconnect to Wi-Fi, happen automatically?
Yeah, so the way that we accomplish this is actually building each flow specifically while we scope out those kinds of transactions. And we actually create it specific for the customer. So it does not happen automatically. We need to have that requirement known in advance. And so by doing that in advance, we'll actually keep track of those transactions, use the storage on the device. FlexiLogic Pro, our application, uses a database as well, so we'll store that information and then we'll push that out once it's reconnected. So kind of a longer answer to the question, but it does not happen automatically. But we do build it based on those requirements.
Thank you. Next question. Do you have any white papers on WMS rule customization for Oracle WMS, EBS, and not cloud?
For the WMS white paper, I do not have anything handy. I would say the best bet on WMS is to go again to the Oracle site and download the PDF there. I know it's right at the top ribbon. You can find information about how to perform that. But as far as the actual EBS and Oracle product white papers, I don't have those available to me, unfortunately.
Next question here. Is there any integration needed for WMS Cloud?
So maybe to understand that a little bit better, WMS Cloud to the mobile solution or just to the other kind of aspects of ERP in general?
If they respond to that with a mobile solution.
Yeah, so we just use the same web services that Oracle provides for WMS. That's the only integration piece that we'll use. So if you're familiar with the Oracle Integration Cloud, we actually don't rely on that. We just use the regular web services available through the WMS system.
And their follow-up is OIC, right?
Correct. Yep.
Alrighty, let's see. Our next question is, coming up in just a moment. What is the implementation timeline to deploy your solution?
So we typically take between 2 to 3 months to deploy Flexi. That can obviously vary on a lot of different factors, like the level of customization. But that's the window that we most often have worked in. And that includes, to follow up to that, the requirement gathering, discovery workshops. We do a UAT, we'll have a CRP kickoff, then we'll even go and help with the go live migration. So it's really all aspects of the implementation are covered in those 2 to 3 months.
Thank you. Next question. Can we have WMS Cloud alone while on EBS on-premise for other SCM modules?
That is a great question. I believe you can. As far as the integration is concerned, I can't speak super well to how that would look. But I do know that you could leverage both of those at the same time, the on-premise EBS modules plus a cloud-based WMS. So I have seen examples of customers running that kind of architecture.
All right, that is all our questions for right now. We do have a little bit more of time if there are any final questions. We're getting a lot of positive feedback in the question box here. Just saying, great, thank you so much. Looks like we did have another question pop up. I'll go ahead and include this as well. So question 8 is asking, what type of support do you provide after implementation?
So our support is structured as kind of, it's bundled into the cost of each license, and this is based on different SLAs that we have in our agreement. So this is like for different kinds of updates or patches to the software, troubleshooting, asking questions about how to use the software or how to get some kind of, just simple bug fixes, things like that. So it really covers the entirety of managing the software post go live. Any kind of new custom developments that might come in the pipeline, like a product update, it also covers those kinds of standard updates as well.
Wonderful. If anyone does have any follow-up questions, maybe something comes up later, you have Jack's information up on the screen, and you can always reach out to Erica or Jack through our membership directory, or come out and see us at Ascent next month. The chat has been posted, or excuse me, the link has been posted in the chat if you are interested in joining us there. Like they said, they have a booth to answer any additional questions, hopefully in person. So that is everything we have for today. Again, all this will be uploaded within our knowledge base within 24 hours. That includes the recording, the slide deck, and the demo in this case. So I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you to our presenters for doing such a great job. And that does conclude our webinar. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your Thursday.